Parineet Jaggi, a novelist, critic, thinker, and associate professor of English at B.R. Ambedkar Government PG College, Sri Ganganagar. Dr. Molly Joseph, Dr. Mukesh Gupta, my senior as well, Dr. Anupama Jain, and all the participants from India as well as overseas, means from the registrations I came to know that I have got participation from Algeria, from Cambodia, from Pakistan, from Bangladesh, from many more Asian and European countries. So I'm blessed and privileged to see such a galaxy of intellectuals on this August moment. I would welcome respected deans and heads at different school of Raffles University, distinguished guests, sincere participants from all over the world, my fellow colleagues, students, ladies and gentlemen. I deem it my proud and privilege to host this webinar today on behalf of School of Humanities, Raffles University. I extend a very warm welcome to each one of you from bottom of my heart. Today is indeed a very special day for us, as we have among us a well-known uh, educationist, Professor Dr. Sudhir Narayan Singh sir, and the topic on which sir will present his ideas is very relevant in the present context in the life of every, maybe professional and non-professional. So this has been a brief welcome from my side. Now to begin, before beginning the session and inviting my distinguished speaker, Professor Sudhir Narayan Singh, I would like to make few requests. First of all, this is a humble request that all of you please keep yourself mute. And it's my duty to tell you the structure of presentation. Initially, there will be a presentation by our distinguished speaker. Maybe sir will speak for an hour. And after that, interested participants will be given 2 to 3 minutes for sharing their opinion, comments, compliments, and their research as well. In between, when presentation of sir is going on, if you have any query, question, then you can drop it in the chat box, and definitely we will address it at the end of the session. Means once the discussion round gets over, your questions will be addressed. So this has been a kind of little structure under which this program will proceed ahead. So now at this juncture, I would like to introduce the eminent resource person for today's webinar, Dr. Sudhir Narayan Singh. Dr. Singh is an alma mater of BHU. Sir is a bilingual poet, editor, critic, and short story writer, and above all, a generous human being. Presently, Sir is rendering his services as an associate professor and head at the School of Humanities and Management Sciences Department at Madan Mohan Malviya University of Technology, Gorakhpur, Uttar Pradesh, India. Dr. Singh also offered his services to visually challenged students. His prestigious international certifications include TESOL, ELT, Leadership Management Certificates conducted by TESOL, International Association, Alexandria, Virginia, USA, and English Language Summer Training by Department of Continuing Education at Exeter College, Oxford University, London. Dr. Singh is a prominent resource person for HRDC Academic Staff College for Teacher Training. Sir's book chapters has been widely published by Indian publishers like Authors Press, Global Vision Publishing House, Alpha Publications, Atlantic Publication, and foreign publishers like Lambert Academic Publishing, Berlin, Germany. Dr. Singh has been awarded with Shiksha Ratna Award by Indian International Friendship Society, New Delhi. So this has been a brief information by our about our stalwart speaker, and definitely when I'll invite sir for sharing his opinion, his words and his presentation will share much more about him. Even as I have not been asked, but I can say there is a page like Son of Soil with same name. His web page is running, as well as YouTube. You can make yourself familiarized with Sir. So before inviting Sir as moderator of today's session, it's my responsibility and duty to provide a brief. Please keep mute yourself. So, as the topic of webinar has already been announced, it's recent trends in English. So before inviting our esteemed speaker, I also feel like to share a few of my opinions. So the topic itself is a kind of horizon. It's very broad. English includes English language, English literature, English communication, English culture, behavior, development, etc. So at present, in all these areas, there are so many recent trends. Means apart from existing things, there are so many new practices evolving and have already evolved. So a few observations I have, and I would like to present those observations. A shift from manual to digital was already in practice with an average pace in pre-COVID time. But post-COVID now, its speed has boosted on n number of grounds. Like earlier, our students as well as we and our researchers used to access books. Now ebooks, means earlier ebooks were also available, but ebooks are now frequently being used for research purpose or boosting the knowledge. Hard copy journal to soft copy journal like e-journals, e-magazines. Humanities, which is a vast area, but new trends in the similar name is digital humanities. Traditional manner of teaching learning has shifted to ICT based teaching learning. Web 2 platforms like social media, Facebook, Twitter, blog, LinkedIn, Insta, and some source of teaching material like Prezi, SlideShare, and teaching modes like fib learning, blended learning. So these are some new practices in the field of English language, literature, communication, culture, behavior, and all. So keeping in mind these changing trends, I planned this, and I'm very thankful to the resource person of the day out of his busy schedule, because Sir has a lot to do with his in his institution. But when I requested Sir, and I remember it was 15th of September, the Teacher Day, and I expressed the desire, Sir, I want you to share your findings and research on the topic recent trends in English. So I know, because I was privileged to have the blessing of Sir. I worked under supervision of Sir for a couple of years. So I know how busy Sir is. So out of his busy schedule, Sir Sir kept a promise and made a time, and definitely the time, that moment is coming true. So I am deeply thankful to Sir for accepting the invitation and coming here to bless us with benign words. Hence, moving ahead, there is an urgent need to contemplate on the role of literature and language in the light of cross-cultural paradigms shift experienced all over the world because of pandemic COVID-19. In the view of these prevailing scenario, this one-day webinar on the topic recent trends in English aims to serve as a forum for eminent scholars and leading academicians from India and abroad to brainstorm these challenges, share their knowledge and experience, and generate empirical observation. So this is what I had to share. Now I would like to invite our distinguished resource person, Professor Dr. Sudhir Narayan Singh, sir. Sir, over to you. Bless us with your kind words.
Am I audible? Hello.
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Sir, you are audible.
Yes, sir.
First of all, let me take this privilege to express my heartfelt thanks to the dignitaries sitting over there in the premises of Raffles University, Neemrana, Rajasthan. Rajasthan has been a pioneer plane for redefining their hosting all over the world. And while listening to Dr. Tiwari, I was visualizing all the culture of that beautiful land of bravery, land of colors, and people with huge heart. They are, they are very caring and sweet. At the outset, you invited me. I'm thankful to you all for providing me this opportunity to join with you and share my opinion from this forum. My heartiest thanks are due to the chief patron of Raffles University, Honorable Dr. Justice Meena B. Gombal, former Chief Justice, Rajasthan High Court, Jaipur. Ma'am, I'm speechless. Rather, I would salute you for your academic ventures and patronizing the budding talents by opening the vistas of budding learners to achieve excellence in higher education. Only a visionary can do. Many people get a job, retire with peace, but a few like you decide to take pain and nurture, plant, and groom such academic arenas. I am really overwhelmed to see the ventures over there flourishing inside the campus. And I'm also thankful to Honorable Vice Chancellor Professor Divakar Goli, who is leading from the front and making this campus march on the track of academics. Various initiatives we were talking about that is going to take place on campus and how the things are taking place. It's really instills a sense of great pleasure. And then later on, we are really thankful to you, sir. And above board, registrar who happens to be the custodian of the campus, Dr. Rajendra Kumar, sir, and Professor Randhir Gautamji. We interacted a few minutes back, and I extend my sense of thanks, heartiest thanks to you for patronizing such academic activities on campus and promoting it. It is a lead that provides direct exposure to academia, being in connection with students and teachers. And I'm lucky that you all have created a forum where, and this Zoom meeting, by zooming in, it's literally like zooming in and zooming out. You have zoomed in the participants from all across Bangladesh, Pakistan, and no doubt these two are the countries we have common heritage, common history, common past, common culture, common soul. And I would like to welcome all the participants, next door participants, our next door participants from these countries. And it is really encouraging, and it's a sense of great happiness that you all are here for the time being, sharing your opinion and thoughts on new trends in English. I am thankful to the countries, participants from the countries Cambodia, Yemen, Algeria, and Philippines. And when we were students in Banaras Hindu University, we had some classmates from Philippines and some classmates from all these countries. It's a great time after long years that we are here interacting together. First of all, it's pandemic haunted time. And in this time, education has gone virtual. No doubt we are missing the classroom experiences, real-time direct experiences of interacting with our uh, students, or students are also missing because how long can you be locked in your homes? School and colleges and universities are the places where a student or a learner or a scholar spends the highest time after his home. After all, above board, I would like to enter into the topic and welcome you to land of his discussion. A few minutes we will be taking, or you can say an hour, we will be dedicating to our discussion on the topic. I have been given the topic new English trends. And when we talk about, new trends in language, social sciences and humanities can never be looked into isolation. It is not like a laboratory of chemistry where a chemical is kept in an airtight compartment or airtight beaker. It is all fluid. When we look at feminist studies, feminist literary theory, it is more like a socio-economic concern. It's a part of sociology. It's a part of economics. It's a discussion of, microeconomics and a lot many things. It cannot be shut down, and at the same time, it's a matter of philosophy and it's a matter of literature. It's a matter of thought process and language. When I say, before entering into English, trains, language itself is a masculine construct. When we talk of all the root words, if I'm drawing your attention to, this affixation, prefixation, suffixation, and infixation. Most of the root words are masculine in nature. What about the space for third gender? Very little words. In Hindi, you will not find more synonym for third gender or transgender people. So language itself being the masculine construct, we need to create a space for gender inclusive language, which in turn started the scope for gender fair language. So that's how we started looking at the language. If we look at the other theories, for example, Marxism and language. So you can find that there is a clearly indicative language of power and indicative language of powerless. And in any country, I might talk to people of friends of Pakistan, Bangladesh, Philippines, Algeria, in any country, they might be able to easily draw a line of the language of power and the language of the powerless. And then you will realize that how these languages affect the domain of interaction. Language of military, language of police, language of, you can say, literature, flowery language, and the kind of language we use in our day-to-day life. Even the language we use in our friend circle, close-knit peer groups, is the different from the language that we use with our parents and with our relatives. So we can realize that whether it's a language or languages, then it coming, I am hitting upon the threshold of language, and gradually we will enter into the premises of English as a language. It's a journey that we have started from, wider domains of humanities and social sciences, and we are marching on and nearing towards the English language or literature, you can say. How does it affect? When we talk about again the black literature or language of black and white, power and powerless, African American literature, or you can say even inside America, that happens to be the strongest democracy on this earth. And you can analyze there also the language of power exchange amongst black and white, how it is being used differently. In 1960s, there used to be a slogan, white is right. If I say white is right, discrimination itself is a term. Discrimination at the beginning, when those who might have been teacher training, they might be knowing that to its beginning, discrimination is a positive term. To its core, to its origin, it's a positive term. We must be able to discriminate colors from black, white, red, etc. Otherwise, we will be considered as color blind. There is no wrong in liking and disliking any particular color. But what is wrong? When we start hating a person wearing that color, till the color is on wall painting and other things inside flower, we are free to choose all the colors of our choice. But when this color, based on the colors, I start picks and choose it in my behavior and start feeling as if white is right. I am telling that whatsoever a person with the white color does is right. By virtue of its practice, it becomes right. It is something like God ordered. It is ethically, it must be ethically accepted. Whatsoever a person with black or dark skin does, it becomes wrong. There lies the faults in, practice of a particular language. When we talk of such practices, now let us enter into the threshold of the language itself. How should we look at the language? Uh, I would like you to imagine a fountain. How do you look at a fountain? Its shape is same, but its content are changing as the water is coming up. Every time fountain is having new content, but it looks like the same shape. When we look at English or any other language, they are also like the same. Many words come, new words come, they go, they become obsolete. So the process, it's forever, the shape will be same, but forever the content will be new. That's the case of language. Forever changing, forever new. And then we enter into the, let us enter into the domain of from language to English as a language, gradually. But whether all meanings lie in words only, or there is something else. The language of silence sometimes is biting. I know that people from Bangladesh and Pakistan can understand Urdu very well. Here I would like to use a line for my dear friends in Urdu. दीवारों से उतर के परछाइयां बोलती हैं, कोई नहीं बोलता जब तन्हाइयां बोलती हैं. And there lies the power of silence. How biting can it be? How painful can it be? There lies the language also in time. इंतजार की घड़ियां लंबी होती हैं. The same time when we are with our beloved, we are with our friends, we are with our near and dear ones, time flies. And when we became isolate or we are waiting for them to come, that wait become as if eternal, as if there is no end to it. So there is also a language in time. There is also a language in color. There is also a language that was used by the greatest, one of the greatest and greatest of literary creators, Sir William Shakespeare and Geoffrey Chaucer. And there was a language that came into existence in modern era. English itself, when they tried to establish their colonies, and when we were subjected to their rule, imposed rule, we started having a different kind of language. When I talk about India, pre-independent India or pre-British India, so you can say three of the modern countries were sharing the same legacy. If I draw your attention of the year 1835, when India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh were one. At that time, a person visits India called Lord Macaulay. He wanted to introduce a different kind of language that was otherwise alien to all the people of Indian or all the people of India, Bangladesh, and Pakistan at that time. And there were vested motives to introduce the English as a subject or English as the medium of language in this part of territories in these areas. And see, that vested motive we will discuss on what ground this was introduced. So Lord Macaulay said that I have traveled all across and north to east to west and north to south, but I couldn't locate even a single beggar and nearby railway station or any other places. He said people with such a big kind of self-respect, they cannot be subjected for the longer duration. So they said, even Macaulay in his minute, he writes that we need to create a group of people that will be Indians in color and complexion, but Britishers in taste and choices. So there was a wasted motive, and what will they do? They will work as interpreters amongst us and millions. Again, the language of discrimination. Us, elite few. Here, us for them, for white. And millions unidentified many. They will work as interpreter amongst us and millions. Millions will be working as subject for them, and they wanted to create a group of people. Those will be working as, for their wasted motive. Now, there, if you have a wasted interest, wasted motive, definitely you are going to face problem. You are going to be subjected to certain unfavorable situation. Now, again, I would like to draw yourself a few steps back. What is language? We started from social science territory, humanities talk. Now we move towards language. Then we have touched upon English entering into Indian subcontinent and how it is going to be introduced, what were the motives behind that. And then let us talk again, language of power, language of subject, and then discriminatory language. I would like to talk about something, certain definition. Let us look at it and enhance our, topic in that direction. When we talk about what is language, so let us look at the certain established definitions of the language. Henry Sweets defines language as the expression of thoughts by means of speech sounds. Expression of thoughts by means of speech sounds means we try to express our thought and ideas through words. Let us explore that whether speech sounds are perfectly able to convey our thoughts that we wish to share. And later on, move to the different definition of the language. I wish to share my screen. I want to share my screen so
You
that
can.
I can
Yes,
show
yes.
you something. How can I? Some expert
Sir,
at
you
your
can
end can.
just you open maybe slide or whatever you want to share. Just play. It will be visible to us.
Okay. Let me minimize first. Then how can I exit full screen? A little support I am required.
Sir, you can press exit ESC button at the corner, top corner of your keyboard, and from there you can.
Uh,
You can
Left side
minimize.
top corner. left side.
Oh, wait
on
a
the
minute, wait a
top.
minute. I think I'm able to. It is taking a few seconds.
Okay, sir, no problem.
Just a few seconds. Is there anything visible?
Yes, sir, it is visible.
Sir, your slide is visible.
Hmm? Hello?
Visible, visible. Your slide is visible. You can make it full screen by pressing F5. It's okay. It's visible.
Okay, are you able to see a bit? Something like non-verbal
Sir,
communication.
visible, visible, visible.
Okay. What I mean to say over here, that language may be defined as expression of thought by means of speech sounds. So how much meaning we draw by speech only. So according to Albert Mehrabian, human messages are conveyed by 7% verbal and 38% vocal, non-verbal 55 to 65%. So when we start talking about communication and all that, sharing our information. So I said prior that our face, our eye, everything start communicating. Then our gesture, posture, and other thing. My request to foreign colleagues and friends that if they have visited India, can they guess that which part of India this dress is representing? Or any participant from India? Can you share your opinion that which this image, why I want to have you a feel of the language without word? Okay, anyone from Rafael University? Any student or any participant from there? This
Good afternoon, sir.
undoubtedly, yes.
This costume, I think this belong from the Rajasthan side. This lady is wearing a Rajasthani lumba in her forehead and a nut. And this costume she's wearing is a Rajasthani bridal outfit.
Very, very good. Thank you so much, ma'am. It was required here that without the word, you draw the meaning out of this certain color and color communicated and design communicated, face communicated, eyes communicated, dress communicated to you. There,
Thank you, sir.
sometimes language fails. So language, I wanted to discuss this image itself in the definition that as the expression of thought by means of speech sound. But this is one definition. We have talked about distance also, it matters. This is from this place, social distancing and unforgettable experiences of pandemic COVID-19 relates to. When we talk about the communication and meaning and message sharing, thoughts and ideas, like if the distance is from physical context to 1.5 feet, means people are having intimate relationship. If 1.5 feet to 4 feet, still they are having personal relationship. 4 feet to 12 feet, here lies the social distancing. Social distancing, this comes, 2 गज की दूरी रखनी बहुत जरूरी, means maintaining distance, socially acceptable distance. Then there 12 feet to range of sight and hearing, there lies the public zone. Paralanguage itself talks about the way we are speaking and other thing. One more thing, when, let us say, when we are exchanging the words, when we are engaged in lively conversation and seem to be engrossed in purely verbal communication, we remain ardent body watchers. We remain ardent body watcher. We start looking at the bodies of the other, and we are so lost that we are not even, certain of it, aware of it. That's the another stage of communication. While talking on second definition of the language, language is a system of conventional spoken or written symbols by means of which human beings, as member of a social group and participant in its culture, communicate. The image tells a lot volumes about the, cultural participation, shared culture. But, and this is what Encyclopedia Britannica, volume 13 is telling. Volume 13, Encyclopedia Britannica. While imposing English to Indian subcontinent, Britishers itself forgot what they have written in Encyclopedia Britannica, that language is a system of conventional spoken or written symbols by means of which human beings in a member of social group and participate in its culture communicate. Clear? So if there is a vested interest and there is a motive that your skin color is different, so you can study English by this way, and their skin color is different, so they will study English by that. There is a problem. And then language is the expression, another definition of personality in words, whether written or spoken. Language is the expression of personality in words, whether it is written. Our writing also represents our personality, and it is universal medium alike for conveying the common facts and feeling of everyday life and philosophers searching after truth. In Sanskrit classic, there is a phrase, Shabdo eva Brahma. What does it mean? Word itself is God, Lord. Shabdo eva Brahma. For that purpose, we should be careful about the usages of the words, and in which common facts, conveying the common facts, feelings of everyday life. And not only that, philosophers searching after truth, truthfulness, Sometimes people say cleanliness is next to godliness. Similarly, truthfulness is the godliness when we talk about the truth. So the language that is mean to convey the truth, where the truth itself becomes a truth of vested interest. What kind of interest when it is said that dogs and Indians are not allowed? When they said white is right based on the skin color. And not only that, for all the participants, I would like to say in a school entrance in America, there used to be a doll test. Very popular doll test. What is that? To a school going girl where a black girl wants to enter in the school. Imagine a 5-6 year girl with a dark skin. They are showing two dolls. One is white, another one is black. And one is beautiful, one other one is clumsy. They are telling which one is a good doll. And if the black doll is telling naturally that white doll is a good doll. Next question. Which one is a bad doll? So she points her finger to the badly ill-prepared doll, black one. The third question will stir your mind. They asked the other question to that little girl. Which doll are you? And for that little girl, it's a shock. Many of the girls start crying in the classroom. So how, and here while defining it is said that alike for conveying the common facts and feelings of everyday life and philosophers searching after truth and all that lies between. Then there comes the next definition of the language. It's a natural human growth, partly physical, partly mental. It flows therefore that it never ceases to change. This is by C.L. Rain. Let us talk about the journey of human being. I said that language is constantly changing. New words are coming into language. And language is trying to focus, express, hit upon the, solving the problems and purposes of the human being. But at the same time, here I am coming to the concluding statement of the discussion that we carried till now. In colonial past, English was injected into our veins as language to mete out the wasted motive of the masters and rulers. It was forcefully injected, and that's why it was opposed. But see, after that, after their departure from these areas, we started, this is imagery for that, and I am trying to use it as a tool. after their departure, we started using it and started injecting English into our veins willingly. In colonial past, the injection was given by them, but now we started using it, injecting it willingly into our veins to counter the diabetes of liberalization, privatization, and globalization, and to try to meet out the global financial demand. When a very common fact behind the economic pull down of us, why we were economically back, we couldn't grow, we are still developing nations. Common logic was given that India missed the bus of industrialization. And it's not like that. A politician from India, Mr. Shashi Tharoor, said that we missed the bus of industrialization because we were thrown under the wheel of wheel of the bus of the industrialization. How? To the participants of Bangladesh, especially I am pointing out, and other British ladies were stopped to purchase that malmal or muslin cloths from Dhaka, and there was a bill passed there in UK that they will not have direct marketing from them. At the time, silk, muslins, and other cloths, that industry of small industries from India for their fine fabric was crushed, and on ashes of that Manchester was constructed, and European industrialization in textile came into being. They were established on the ruins of silk, cotton, and muslin prepared then India, but that was in Bangladesh and other places right now. So it was the language of power, and they wanted to inject us forcefully, inject into our veins forcefully. Let us talk about the growth and changing scenario. We, the developing nations, we are trying to think that how are we, that we should grow, we should come to we should be the front runners, and we should lead. Undoubtedly, a fair competition is desired, and it must be implemented. Let us try to look at the growth and its definition. That when we talk of, we have begun, right till now, we have traveled the journey from 1835, Macaulay Minutes and his vested motive, where he writes that I travel at stretch all over India from north to south and east to west, but couldn't locate single beggar. And he said that objective of that implementation was of English in India was, we need to create a group of people Indians in caste, color, and complexion, but Britishers in taste and choices. That has been the extensive journey from 1800 to 1947, or you can say for some of the countries who were enslaved by them, or you can say colonized by them. But as we said that we started developing a kind of likings for English as a language. And we started injecting English into our veins willingly since Britishers left us. This change of colonial past to post-colonial desire, colonial compulsion to post-colonial adaptation, you might be realized that English as people left us, but English as subject is still with us. And Mahatma Gandhi wrote in Young India once that I have already seen my fellow Indians like their likings for English as a subject, and English is being looked as a passport to marriage for girls. English, he said that my friends are feeling shy that, and they hesitate in bringing their wives to the meeting, public gathering, or common parties, because they are not able to communicate in English. So that kind of adaptation of English was there. And you can see the growth of English in post-colonial situation by the time they left us. Then that growth, there is a reason behind that growth. If you will see, I would like to quote Black American author who said, and how language is, I'm talking now about language and human growth. Black American author Imamu Amiri Baraka, Leroy Jones, he said that success means growth and growth means change. People fear change because it undermines their stability. So there is a paradox that we cannot also bear too much change. We need to, Baraka again, Leroy Jones again tells, no society is going to change itself. We need to force change. How can we force change? There are two methods of forcing the change. We can enable the people inside to bring the force from inside, inert force, or we can put the force from upper side. Here for your example, just see, I have something in my hand. Can anybody tell that are you able to see what I am showing you? Any participant?
So this
Anyone,
is an
please?
egg. So this is
Yeah.
an egg.
Yes. There are two methods of applying force on it. You can apply force on it externally, or the force may be applied internally. If you are applying force externally, or if we are applying force externally, we can break a life. But if the force is internal, a new life can begin. So force we need to decide that from where we are going to apply force. Is it external one or it is being internal one? Success means growth. Growth means change. People fear change because it undermines their stability. from where the force is applied, how we are willing to apply the force. Is it going to be the external one or it is going to be the internal one? If the force is internal, we will make a life. If the force is external, we will break a life. So we need to realize that what are the things and how the changes occur. And that was the basic difference of the growth of English as a language in colonial areas, colonial countries. In British era, Britishers were enriched, but in post-colonial era, English as a language is being enriched. That's what, to that conclusion, I wish to bring you. Then in that way, the business, the language of business, English became the language of business, English for professional purposes. While introducing Dr. Tiwari, Devin Tiwari was telling that there are different kind of English. EFL, English as foreign language, ESL, English as second language. Then ELT, we are using language teaching methods, multiple methods. Then I said flowery language, military language, and peer group language, and lingua franca. You might be realizing that with the advent of ICT, English became lingua franca and common language of all across the globe. Then there was a factor that influencing mother tongue versus other tongue. And see, there was one more thing I wish to discuss. And that thing was the glorification of white color. Even Britishers left us. How mentally we were colonized. Literature coming like that in translation or in our native language means it became so fluid that it gel well with our own mother tongue. And one more thing I wish to add here, that languages cannot be, clearly classified, rather they will blend, they will gel when we come with the culture and contact of them. Something of us, they will start liking, something of them we will start appreciating. And there comes the hybridity of the thought and hybridity in the language. The code mixing and code switching practices in India or in neighborhood became a very big thing. How is that code mixing and code switching came into practice? When you see about code mixing and code switching thing, even in industries it is glorified, like Dag the Fire, Chak the India, or Amul the Taste of India, and then Thanda matlab Coca-Cola. These code mixings are being utilized. And see, in colonial past, when they were using their vested interest, how were they trying to demean the linguistic terminology, the linguistic imposition of superiority? Like the word Maharaja means overlordship. And if you will look for it, its meaning in dictionary, Maharaja means an Indian prince. Then similarly, these things will be in practice and they were demeaned. Then when we talk about emerging English for professional purposes and see the colonial mindset, जिसको उर्दू में कहते हैं जेहनी गुलामी, colonial mindset, where we were glorifying गोरे रंग का जमाना कभी होगा ना पुराना. White was being glorified. And then mixing of code mixing beautifully in the songs of from Indian soil, and not only here, it is gelling well with other countries. When we are talking about the, that's why am I audible? Because I don't see myself.
Sir, you are
On his-
audible loud and clear.
Okay,
Your
okay.
video is visible clearly and your audio
Okay,
is
okay.
also good.
Then I thought that somewhere internet is interruption. When we were talking about, you know, how these English terms started gelling well in Indian literature, and you know, maybe our folkloristics and folk culture. So I would like to tell you another example of code mixing, like how these terms are mixing together. हम तुम पे इतना डाइंग जितना सी में पानी लाइन, आकाश में पंछी फ्लाइंग, भंवरा गलियन में गाइंग. What does it mean? Why it is so mixed so well? And nowadays, for certain terminology, also, if your grammar is flexible, if your phonetics is flexible, definitely that language is going to be more flexible. This is the reason probably behind the growth of English, because they open their doors and welcome the terms from industry, from doors for foreign words, and they started assimilating, adopting. I would like to quote one line on democracy, the Vox Populi, Vox Dei. Then what is that? In our democracy, voice of people is the voice of God. Vox Populi, voice of people, Vox Dei, deity. You can say Vox Dei. Voice of the people is the voice of the God. All these terms, all these phrases, though they are not from English origin, they may be from German, English, and other languages. They are entering into the, you know, threshold of English. There, very recently, there a new term was added into English, fubber. Fubber means ignoring the person sitting before you for, for favoring your smartphone. If somebody is giving more weightage to phone and somebody is sitting before him, if he is ignoring that person in the favor of smartphones, means that he is a fubber. This is how new terms started coming and traveling from place to place. COVID-19 also came with a lot of new words to be included into the dictionary of English. Sorry. We look at the Covishield and COVID-19. Novel coronavirus spread in the December 2019. COVID-19. Then Covishield, Covaxin. A lot many things started coming, and they will definitely make their place into English dictionary. Then we need to look at the time before the entry of English, Sanskrit and Urdu were dominating language in these areas. But later on, both of them started being replaced, and we can find the emergence of gender fair language, gender inclusive language, and people terms from other languages entering into English. Then Maharaja, Maharani, Maharishi, Mahatma, Mahaut, all these terms from Indian territory, they could make a mark and make their entry, find a space in English dictionary. How gender fairness is being practiced. We call baby, we call man, woman. Root word is man. Yo is the prefix. So certain countries started telling that ki, nahi bhaiya, we are not going to use this man. We will talk about ourselves only as you. Then they started practicing women, and man is removed from that. They started advocating. Then they said baby itself is coming as the mass male dominated. How can you decide the gender? He is expecting, she is expecting a baby. She is expecting a baby. Means male child is preferred. How can you decide the gender even before birth? Whether it's male or female. So it is said that don't use baby, rather use they plus be, they be. So gender is not defined, and that third person is added before the root word. So they started this new word in the English dictionary. Then we find that other status quo, viva voce, and French term adieu, genre, and then laissez-faire, we souvenir, keep, and alumni, all these terms started making entry gradually, and language came up to this space. Undoubtedly, that literature glorifying the past of, you know, uh, colonial legacy started coming out of that. And very recently in India, we started take a jump from the Macaulay education policy, and NEP 2020 came into being. Even another prior to that also we were having one education policy. I think it will again liberate us from the colonial, mindset, and it will provide us to think of new literature in English in coming days. Though till then, literature was heavily dominated by a kind of struggle of haves and have-nots, of, bourgeoisie language and proletariat language, language of white, language of black, literature of white, literature of black. When they say white is right, black started coming with the slogan like the aesthetic sense that earlier used to carry, like Chandi jaisa rang hai tera, sone jaise baal. Then they started telling that black is beautiful, new slogan that came into existence. And finally, many new literary metaphors started cropping up, and where ICT and technology is also giving a great intervention into our lives, and literature is being more and more technical. Haiku is coming into practice, where 3 lines poetry, short stories, and the shorter literature form of literatures are coming, where SMS and net lingo is becoming a subject of more experimental in nature, and we can find imageries like the technological jargon. There is a term very recently I came across from a song in Indian territory, and that was experiment in Bhojpuri. Bhai Babuni. Bhai Babuni. Before Bhai means BAE, it's an abbreviation before anybody else. So we can find how these terms are, drafting and crafting and giving shape to new aesthetic, and indigenous idioms are coming to the forefront and into practice this technological era, and newly framed educational policies will give shape, new shape to the coming literature and writing practices, and that will unwind the bindings of the thought in which we were have to having to project to think of poetry, like even in the rhymes like Johnny Johnny, yes Papa, eating sugar, no Papa. Why Johnny Johnny? Why not Ramu Ramu? Or why not, some Indian name? Why only Johnny Johnny? Yes. So we need to think in the perspective of liberating. Education is that tool that liberates. Language is the tool also. No doubt English has gone very flexible in its journey since its inception and in our area, but it will go beyond the way technology will move. And pandemic was a challenge for us, but you see how many new names, how many new vaccine names, how many new terminology was added to the dictionary of English. And we have to look at the growth of English as language. Today we had gone through the journey of English as a language, English as a subject, English as a medium of instruction, and English as willful adoption from the journey that initiated at the beginning. English was forcefully injected into our academic veins. That's it from my side. Now I am over to the host. I don't know, you might be thinking in a different line that I will come and I will talk about, you know, Kiran Desai and Anita Desai and other writers, new writers. But here my talk was, it started from the journey since we are from, I am talking for the Department of Humanities and Social Sciences, um, Raffle University, School of Humanities and Social Sciences. And I'm speaking from the place of Department of Humanities and Management Science. So in this terrain, I prefer that our talk should touch humanities subject, social science arena, and then coming to English as language, as literature, English MTI influences, and English for professional purposes, and pandemic and English to the last I touched upon. These has been my domain. Now over to the host, and I'm open for idea sharing and interaction with the participants.
Sir, thank you so much. It was a wonderful session. So far as I could understood, it was full of information, and the way you started, you maintained the pace and concluded. Definitely, it is appreciable, and I hope my audience would have also enjoyed. So, as per our planning, the next thing is we have decided for the discussion, and from some of eminent participants as well as our HOD, Professor Randhir Gautam, has also planned to share some of his ideas. So first of all, among audience, if Dr. Parinit Jaggi ma'am is available, I invite you for a discussion. So as ma'am is not available right now, so I would like to invite Professor Randhir Gautam for a discussion of his experiences and opinion related to recent trends in English. Sir, over to you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Devendra. And it is really a great opportunity for me. And I really congratulate Dr. Sudhir Narayan Singh, sir. Basically, I'm a sociologist, and I can see your talk had so many sociological concern. And when we think about language, particularly we choose the domain or the school called structuralist. And there it is written, language is not that we use, language shapes us. And I incorporate some more perspective that different language, influence our mind in a different ways. Not because what our language allows us to think, but rather because of what it is habitually obliges us to think about. So sociological concern is very important. If you see the trend of new English, the newness defines the multiplicity, multidisciplinary orientation, intersectionality of English. English has incorporated many sociological, psychological theories. And that is why the epistemology of English is considered to be a multi-facets language. And that is why it is the most dynamic language of the world, because it is evolving, it is changing, it is growing each day, each year, from the process of colonization. And British has played a very significant role, and process of globalization, where American played a very significant role. But we need to have a clinical gaze of the development of English language. Evaluating change in English language teaching is very significant for that matter. Therefore, sociological perspectives comes into the picture. And Sir has already highlighted some of the major sociological concerns during his talk. Development of English literature in terms of more humanized, intersectional and negotiable landscape for English language. Nowadays, newness of the study of English literature, interested in cultural politics of education, cultural politics of society, especially language education and psychoanalysis. And it offers a new perspective on language teaching by placing moral issues. That is the question of values. And that has become a kind of hallmark of prerequisite for our advancement of English literature. Envisioning language through postmodern concern, post-structural concern, gender lens, psychoanalytical lens, represent, an effort of destabilizing the so-called normal assumption. And in that sense, pandemic has also significant impact of challenging quote unquote normal thing. Nowadays, English literature has oriented towards a cultural oriented thing. It questions identity, it theorizes identity, it theorizes privilege, marginalization, inequality, intersection, so and so forth. And so nowadays, English literature has become more theory-laden and theory-driven. Pointed out and she beautifully pointed out today's discourse of English. Debates about language has really become the issue of race, issue of caste, so far as Indian scenario is concerned, issue of gender, issue of class, issues of culture. And nowadays, if we epistemologically understand the language of English, there we can see a significance of pragmatism. Nowadays, truth is not fundamental. Truth has become related to time, related to place, related to purpose. And the whole orientation, whole epistemology of modern English literature questions the notion of fundamental truth and absolute reality. So, an issue of sensitization, that is a very remarkable thing with the advancement of feminist voice or subaltern voice. Modern theoretical or modern English literature also changed its orientation so far as the sensitization towards gender and sexuality or heterosexuality is concerned. So this is my observation, and sir has beautifully articulated all those dimensions, or he has touched the unexplored dimension of the things, which is rarely discussed. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, sir, for highlighting all, domains. Even you have pinpointed the things that I have left a bit generalized. So you hit upon that and pinpointed. Rather, it was a bit like that some of the domains were uncharted a bit, but you charted it. You made a map and draw a line that these are the points that has been touched upon. And really socio and psychological concerns will and their dominance will give birth to new literature in coming age and in coming era. Literature are sociology and its concern, and even psychology can never be divorced from literature. No doubt, as a subject, we can teach, we can study separately, but to its core, you will see that they are attached so closely that no society can dare to operate them separate. And that is not yet possible. And all the great social movements, they owe their origin to great literature. Maybe it be Shahid Ajam Bhagat Singh ji, who led the movement, and by reading Lenin and other renowned scholars. May it be Mahatma Gandhi, Gandhian experiment with truth and civil disobedience. By Gandhiji was inspired by H.D. Thoreau, Henry David Thoreau, and he American author Henry David Thoreau. He wrote a book. The name of that book was Civil Disobedience. And one of his jail journey, Gandhiji entered into that jail with that book. And then when he was imprisoned, throughout that time, he kept studying that. And he said that many at times I was trying to translate Satyagraha and this Savinay Avagya Andolan into English, but I couldn't get a group translation of it, an apt translation of it, until and unless I came into the touch of this great work by H.D. Thoreau. So that was the point that you highlighted. And there are certain questions, I think, in chat box. I think I should talk on that. I should address a bit, or should I follow?
We have got some, actually, the same session is live streamed on Facebook as well. So from Facebook also we have got some questions, And for that
Okay.
purpose, I have requested one of my colleague to note down those questions, Dr. Santosh. So,
Okay.
I would like to request Dr. Santosh to share those questions to your good self, and then one by one we'll take your opinion. So,
Okay.
over to Dr. Santosh.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, sir, and thank you very much for such a enlightening and engrossing session, sir. I'm sure the doubts are already over by your discussion, but still, we have some questions to discuss. So I will read it out for you, sir.
Okay, welcome,
the first
sir.
question, yes, sir, yes, sir. The first question is, as you talked about post-colonial aspect of language and literature, sir, so do you think it is relevant to study colonial history in literature?
Yes, past is cannot be separated. Again, its answer was in the talk of Professor Randhir Gautam sir. Past can't be separated. We cannot, neither can we separate our sociology from history. Past is the foundation on which we are discussing. I would like to answer this question with an example. Once Leroy Jones, Imamu Amiri Baraka, American dramatist, he said that I am Marxist, Leninist, Mao Zedong. When he said that I am Marxist, Leninist, Mao Zedong, when I speak, I, as Dr. Sudhir Narayan Singh, I am not speaking. In my voice, my teachers, my parents, my friends, my peer group, all of them are getting voice, their instincts, their impacts, their training, my even in my mistakes, in my life, everything is being voiced. Everything. So that way, colonial, it is not like that. See, in our life, real life, if we are going through bad days, then what happened? That even if we are coming out of that, we are getting good days, we still remember lessons that we learned from our past, and that memory keep hanging it there. No memory can be cut out from our experiences. It will be in our memory, and like there is a line, जो घनी भूत पीड़ा थी मस्तक में स्मृति सी छाई, दुर्दिन में वो आज बरसने आंसू बनकर आई. So that painful memory will keep hampering and keep influencing our behavior. Like, see, there are certain people who suffered a lot in their life. By suffering, what happened? They became very humble. Ashoka became great, and he adopted Buddhism. The credit goes to the Kalinga war. So we cannot separate the post-war Ashoka and pre-war Ashoka, because the history of that Kalinga war is the reason behind that peaceful Ashoka in the shelter of Buddhism and telling Buddham Sharanam Gacchami, Sangham Sharanam Gacchami, and talking about all that non-violence and peace. Because the past is responsible for it. So that way, without colonial practice, as I said that we injected into our vein, we injected it, it was injected forcefully. In there is a difference. English was injected into our veins, like that people who is not willing to have vaccination, but government is forcing that vaccine into their veins just to make them away from that. But still there is a goodwill कि आपको vaccine लग जाएगा. If you will have the vaccine, you will not fall ill. But there was the wasted motive. Again, I am repeating that English as a subject, when the English means British people introduced English as a subject in 1835, it was their vested interest, their ill will, their desire to have interpreters amongst them and millions, and it was with that desire. So English wouldn't grow that much in colonial India, the faster it is going in post-colonial India, because we ourselves are now injecting English into our veins to combat the diabetes of liberalization, privatization, and globalization and industrialization, making us industry giant and other, excelling our ventures into various places. So we cannot separate. If we are separating, we are having the hiding half the truth, one side of the coin. That is giving support to the existence of the other side of it. I would like to add this answer to this.
So, Dr. Santosh, if you have some other questions, you can again ask.
Yes. Thank you, sir. Thank you for explaining it nicely and with live examples, sir. Now the second question is, do you think gender study as a theory is dominating the field of literature these days? Because we discussed the gender theory also in our discussion.
Yes,
So,
wonderful. Sir, please repeat it. I couldn't get a few parts.
The
I missed.
question, see, sir. Yes, sir. The question is, do you think gender study as a theory is dominating the field of literature these days?
Gender, actually, network problem. Gender study as a theory.
As a theory is dominating the field of literature these days.
Yes, is dominating because again, if we are suppressing a thing, it is bound to come doubly. Whether sir hinted, I'm giving again, Professor Randhir sir gave a hint. I am voicing it with the, by repeating it. He said that the literature of, domination of caste, or you can say creed, we have to accept that caste is the sociological reality of India. It is the sociological reality of India. We can't deny that there has never been any problem. Similarly, we can't deny that means we as male have done wrongs to women by establishing a kind of environment, kind of system that denied their basic rights that they deserved for thousands of years. And that thousands of years suppression has now become a kind of volcano. And that's why gender studies are dominating. See, sir, the person who asked, I must like to thank the fellow, that gentleman, or whosoever is there, the candidate. Why is it so? There are three genders: male, female, transgender. And transgender people condition is worst in all three in the hierarchy. While teaching gender studies, instead of feminism and other things, while talking of gender studies, we should also not ignore the voice of third gender. Yes, they should also be given their right, and as they are, marginalized like anything, even inside the language, their representation is very, very thin. And women, for them, they will get their rights that way, and that sociological movement will continue. And in literature, gender studies is dominating today because of 1,000 years of wrong domination.
Thank you, sir.
That was
Thank you so much.
designed over there. Yes, please.
Sir, okay, thank you very much for answering so brilliantly all the questions raised. Now, before moving ahead to end the session, once again, I would like to request the participants available online, if they have something to share, some compliments, so within 1 or 2 minutes, they can. Anybody who is on board, who is online, can, because the questions we got from social media like Facebook Live, we have almost shared to sir and well answered. Anybody from participants? Even our students can also raise their hand or maybe directly unmute themselves and talk. Okay, so that's fine. The session was full of information and well presented, well answered, well discussed, and really that is what I wanted, and sir did it. And moving ahead, just to the end of the session, to the conclusive part of the session, I would like to invite Professor Randhir Gautam sir as the head of the department to extend a vote of thanks to the session. Sir, over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Devendra. And if you don't mind, I can see some questions. Nasreen Darani from Bangladesh, he has texted something in chat box. So I want to ask to
Yes, sir.
honorable
Yes, welcome,
speaker.
welcome.
Sir, he is saying our obstacle of learning English related to our manner of learning and teaching, certainly using rote learning rather than deep learning in grammar and pronunciation. So he just something related to pedagogy of learning.
Wonderful, sir. So far as I think, obstacle in learning English uh, related to our manner of learning and teaching, certainly using not learning rather than using rote learning rather than deep learning in grammar and pronunciation, etc. For the pronunciation part, I have my own say. Actually, I wanted somebody to ask this question. This for grammar, we need to stick to rules. But again, English is very flexible.
Sorry for the disruption. The participant, the respected participant who asked this question is from Algeria, not Bangladesh.
Okay. So my friend from Algeria, I wish to thanks first for raising this question. For teaching pronunciation, I have a question, counter question. Why RP? Again, it may sink in our mind, why to copy Britishers? Why RP? So for pronunciation, we can think only that understand and be understood should be the objective of the language. Understand the others and to be understood by the others. For that purpose, because we cannot remove MTI, minimize 100% MTI. Mother tongue influence is there, it was there, and it will be there. So being copycat will never be going to give us permanent solution. Then there comes IPA. So IPA is a bit acceptable because somewhere it is talking about uniformity of language. But in RP, we are following them. We are following Britishers and we are trying to be only blind follower. And the good thing is that I wish to add over here, sir, in 2018, I visited Oxford University, University of Oxford, UK, and there for having some training in language. And what did I notice there? That they are also now changing. They are changing like anything. They are adopting our style of speaking as well. As I said that there is no airtight compartmentalization. This globalization has opened a door for them also to change their tone a bit as it is being accepted by the other part of the country. And so there is an openness, but for grammar, I think that memory plays a great role for being. But again, when we literature, I'm talking about learning English language, mastering language. For grammar part, memory plays a great role. But for mastering literature, which is an emotional part, learning by rote will not work. Somewhere वो कहते हैं कि चेतना का सहृदय होना means you need your heart and your humanistic approach and your humane approach plays a bigger role, and the kind of the way we are able to empathize with the rest of the with the pain of the others, we are able to uh, make our make ourselves better creator, better poet, and other things. But for for language part, again I say that pronunciation should not be followed, and even Britishers are now changing. They are they are being influenced by us as well. We are also influencing them, vice versa. Now both sides, their English is also changing. And rather you can say that Indian people are following and they are using some forums, better English than Britishers. There was an award uh, given to All India Radio and for speaking the English closest to RP. And in that competition, even BBC person was there to participate. So some of the our fellows, they feel elite, they feel honored in following RP. But I feel that IPA is good, and not only IPA, even we should try to minimize MTI influence, mother tongue influences, and minimize it up to the level so that, see, like in India, for foreign friends, I would like to give last example here. In Indian people follow the grammar of Sanskrit that was given by Panini, where the sounds like pa, pa, ba, bha, ma, they all are bilabial, practiced spoken by the lips and both the lips. But in English, only two sounds spoken by the both the lips, like pa and ba. So what is happening? If some Indian is speaking, it will be quite difficult for him to use the term like VAN, van, father, by lower lip and upper teeth, father. But here comes the major mistake. If he is speaking by both the lips, father, so it will make a wrong impression. Van, like van. So that will be a problematic approach. Somewhere this MTI has to be minimized. Otherwise, for literature, learning by rote will not work because it will somewhere hamper our sensibility and sensitivity both.
Yes, thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. So, dear and respected friends, we are running out of the time. So it's time for vote of the thank. highlighted
And
by.
sir, one last word, pardon, I beg pardon. I need your
Please.
one permission. I have been informed that participants from Pakistan, Bangladesh, Philippines, Algeria, Yemen, Cambodia, and that gentleman was from, who asked this question?
Algeria.
Algeria. So
Mhm.
we had participants from all over area. I would like to say namaste from India and extend my heartfelt thanks to you all. And I
you.
wish you healthy life, and I wish you grand successes in your life and literature both.
Yes.
For
Thank
to
you so much.
all the participants, to all from my dear India, all the states of India, people from there, and I'm thankful to University, Raffles University, and I'm thankful to Chief Patron, Honorable Dr. Justice Meena V. Gomber, and Vice Chancellor Professor Diwakar Koleji, and Registrar Rajan Kumarji. My heartiest thanks that you thought me worthy enough to be associated with your name and share my thought from your forum. Thanks for the invitation. Thanks a lot. And now over to sir. Thank you, sir. Thank
Thank
you.
you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. You are very kind-hearted. Uh, I would like to extend and express my gratitude to all the esteemed delegates of the webinar for their presence and contribution to make this webinar a great success, a very thought-provoking session. I